Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Blackrock Mountain card review. This time I am doing the class comments. If you have not seen part 1, there shall be a link where the card back is. Go check that out before you continue on. Let's get started. Alright, first card we have is Axe Flinger. It's a 4 mana 2/5. Whenever this minion takes damage, just 2 damage to this minion. So how I have this format is I have comparable with, and then I have synergies with. For the first card, we're going to look at the low end, which is pretty much the dead stats. Like at the bare minimum, what is this card as closely similar to? Granted, these cards are all new, so there should be no exact similarities, but there should be a card that it can be as close as it can potentially be to the new card discussed, and it help justify how good or how bad this card should be in Arena. Then I have mid end, which is what it's generally going to be, what type of effect or similarities, what you should expect. And then high end is if everything goes well, what's on the higher end of what could this card do, what could this card provide. And now that you know, let's get started. So with Axe Slinger, I decided to say that the low end is a Silverhand Knight. The reason why I chose Silverhand Knight is Silverhand Knight is a card that guarantees, if necessary, 2 damage somewhere. Axe Slinger is the same way, where if you play it down, it's like a leopard gnome. The 2 damage is going to be guaranteed most of the time, unless it gets completely removed by a coda or something, and it's going to deal that 2 damage to the enemy hero. So if you're playing this card in a rush type arena deck, the 2 damage is guaranteed. 2 damage is going to be very useful. It's going to be a good card for that type of deck. In the mid end, I have Clunker. Clunker is a card that can provide value sometimes, and then could be just a basic 2/5 as well. And I think that's what you're going to find out of Axe Flinger most of the time. Most of the time, Axe Flinger is not going to be the card that's like, oh, this card was game changing. Even if it provides 2 or 4 damage guaranteed to the face, it's not going to be like, okay, that 4 damage was exactly what I needed to end the game, to win this one. If I didn't have this Axe Flinger, I wouldn't have won the game. Sometimes though it will, so that's why I put Clunker as a very similar card. Sometimes Clunker triggers, same thing with and it provides some kind of significant benefit. Sometimes Axe Flinger will trigger maybe once or twice to provide some kind of significant benefit. And on the high end, if you combo this card with things like Whirlwind, things like Death's Bite, and Cruel Taskmaster, you can really get extra free damage into the enemy hero. So on the high end, we already know what the stats are, but on the high end, this card could be a 4 mana 2/5 that provides an extra type of Mind Blast kind of effect, where it deals 4 to 6 damage to the enemy hero. And with the right type of deck, you may just have a free card on top of a 2/5 body. So let's move on. And then with the synergies, we have a lot of synergies with this card. This card is very synergistic with the warrior theme, so there's a lot of cards that really work with this card. Inner Rage deals 1 damage to a minion. You can always target that minion, buff it up. Revenge is a new card. I haven't even talked about this card yet, but it does 1 damage to all minions. It's like a Whirlwind that has a potential to be a Hellfire, but it's very synergistic with the Axe Flinger. So is Whirlwind, so is Slam. You can target your own minions with Slam, so you can draw and get that guaranteed 2 damage off. Bouncing Blade is going to be really good with Axe Flinger. You play Axe Flinger and Bouncing Blades. If Axe Flinger dies, that's 10 damage, since it's going to get hit 1 time 5 different times. Cruel Taskmaster is going to be really useful to buff it up and also provide damage to the enemy. And then Warsong Commander with the charge is also going to be a pretty good card. Now, something else I put is Fire Blast. If you have a Pilot Sky Golem, you may get Axe Slinger. You never know what Arena will do. And if you're playing Mage, you should probably stop. But if you have the need to keep playing a class such as that one, you can always use that Fire Blast to deal 1 extra damage just for fun. Next we got Fire Guard Destroyer. This card is looking really sweet in Arena. There's a lot of good things to talk about this card. On the low end, this card is actually a fairly respectable 5-drop. It's a 3/6 for 4 mana. The Overload is what gives it the 5 cost, right? But Overload's an interesting mechanic because it doesn't really feel like it doesn't really feel like a 5 cost. The mana difference sometimes is negligible, but getting out a 3/6 on turn 4, you can tell with how powerful Water Elemental has been in the game, is going to be really helpful for any Shaman in Arena. And I think this card is going to be one of the best picks if you are wanting to try out Shaman again with these new cards. And on the high end, it can be a Pit Lord without the damage battle cry, but having a 6/6 on turn 4 or a 5/6 is going to be really, really solid and a really, really good card in the Arena meta, probably in Constructed too. This is just talking about control arena standpoints. This card synergizes due to Overload, so anything with Overload is going to be very synergistic, so the Unbound Elemental and the Lava Shock. And another thing this Fire Guard Destroyer will synergize with is the Wind Fury mechanic. Since the card can get a 7/6 on turn 4, it's going to be very hard to deal with that card immediately, and having the Wind Speaker or the Wind Fury to put out upwards of 14 damage a turn is just going to really change how people deal with this card. Alright, next up we got Gang Up. Choose a minion yourself for 3 into the deck. Now this card is very interesting because there was really not, I was thinking I couldn't figure out a card that was just quite like this one. This card's very unique, and that's really cool in the game to still have completely unique cards come out and still see what the community can do with these cards. On the low end, it's in Arena, this card's might not have too big of a place, because at the low end you may pay 2 mana and get no return, because all those cards are in your deck and you have to draw into them before you can even play them. And in Arena, that's just too inconsistent, so I don't see this card really being highly valued unless there's something I'm overlooking in it. So in the low end, this card does nothing because you play it and you never draw the cards you actually put in your deck. In the mid end, it will be a card. You will maybe draw 1 or 2, maybe all 3 copies, and that might swing that type of game around and might be very useful. And in the high end, if you have a very draw heavy deck, a very synergistic deck with maybe drawing a lot of cards or running out into fatigue, you can use this as a pseudo duplicate. You can pick a card and have 3 more copies of it in your deck, and maybe use that very effectively, I would say. Now, synergies with this card, I thought there was a lot of synergies with this card. As a spell, I put Preparation in the synergies just because it's a combo that you can use on something rogues can do with almost every spell, and I don't want you to forget that. Another really cool trait about this card is it works really well with tribal factors like dragon, so you can put any type of dragon. Another thing as well is you can put uncollectible cards like Emerald Drake was the example I put up here. If you have a Ysera, this is more of a constructed thing, but you have Ysera, you get an Emerald Drake, you can play the Emerald Drake, gang out the Emerald Drake, and have a 4-mana 7/6 just in your deck waiting to be drawn, as well as a dragon card. There's a lot of synergies with pirates. You can have a pirate theme. You can have a lot of synergies with mech, have a mech theme. Murlocs have a Murloc theme. And I put a lot of cards that have utility purposes as well, just to show you the wide range of combos this type of card could have in the meta if you use it right. And then the last but not least, you could also put legendaries in there. Maybe have 4 copies of a legendary and see how that turns out instead of 1. I put the classic Deathwing. I would like to see a deck with four different Deathwings in your deck, and just have that really pull some stuff. You'd have to play Deathwing first and have the gang up, but that'd be a really nice combo to see. Moving on, we have Solemn's Vigil. This card's a pretty cool card, giving arcane intellect to a different class in a unique way. If you top deck this card and there's nothing on the field, it's like a weaker Nourish, but this low end is not something that's going to be too common in Arena. Arena being minion based, you're going to see a lot of minions on the board, and it is going to lower very often, very consistently. In the mid end, when you trade 1 minion for 1 and both of them trade, you can play this card just as an arcane intellect, draw 2 cards, refill your hand. And on the high end, maybe you trade 3 or more minions. Maybe you get this card played for free. It's going to be like a Battle Rage, because Battle Rage costs 2, and it's very easy to trigger 2 or more cards as for drawing with Battle Rage. Now with this card, and with any card that has each minion dies less per turn, it's going to rely on the cards that summon other minions type abilities. And with Paladins have that Muster for Battle, which is the main synergy card. For a card like this, having 3 minions to reduce, you can take out a 3/3 with your Muster for Battle minions, and then play this card for 1, which would be really cool. And then Hungry Dragon summons a minion that can be used for this, and any of the neutrals that have minion summoning abilities can also be used very effectively to make this card a little bit cost effective. Next we have Quick Shot. Quick Shot's a very versatile card, very interesting card. Deal 3 damage if your hand is empty, draw a card. I thought this card was very nice and is going to see quite a lot of play in Arena, I assume. It being a Dark Bomb or a Frostbolt, depending on how you look at it. Dark Bomb just being a deal 3 damage. Frostbolt has the potential to be a little bit more, and that's why I put that as a mid tier, because Quick Shot also has the potential to be a little bit more. And on the high end, it's the exact same card as Hammer of Wrath, except it's a little bit inconsistent, but due to the inconsistency, it costs a lot less, and that's pretty good for the hunter mentality. Get rid of your hand and then start spamming some Quick Shots. Okay, I think this card synergizes with itself. You can play Quick Shot, draw another Quick Shot, play Quick Shot, draw another Quick Shot, and then your opponent concedes because they're really frustrated. That's how you beat them. But you're laughing all the way to the extra keys. Another card this card synergizes with is Core Rager. You can Quick Shot to Core Rager and have a really nice board. Another thing you can do is Hunter's Mark. You can Hunter's Mark first and then Quick Shot and then draw another card. And another thing this card synergizes quite well is Hero Powers. You can Quick Shot the face, draw another card in Hero Power, and do a lot of damage per turn if the goal is to take out the opponent's life. Next we have Druid of the Flame. One of my favorite cards introduced in Arena. I think this card is going to be really strong, really effective. On the low end, if somehow this card gets silenced or played or something, it has a very, very similar effect to Anodized Robocop. The stats are a little bit different, but the effects are quite the same. you choose one, and either it buffs its attack or its health. Here it's buffing the attack by 3 or its health by 3. You don't get the ton effect, but you get a much larger buff for the cost. And then in the mid end, it's like a Wii Stopper. It's like a 2/5. It's an even cheaper 2/5. It's the only 2/5 for 3, I believe. So it's going to be, it has 4 cost stats for 3 cost, which is very, very nice to see, and it's going to be a really good card. It's also a beast, which is very, very helpful if you're looking for synergies in Control Arena play. And then on the high end, this card is like a Reckless Rocketeer 5/2, except without a charge. So you lose charge, but you gain 3 mana, and that's really, really costing. That's really good in terms of cost analysis benefit. I don't think charge is worth 3 mana. Like you wouldn't give that's saying King Crush with the charge. If it didn't have charge, it'd be a 6 mana 9/9, which is ridiculous. So that's just I think it's a really, really solid card. One of my favorite cards introduced into the game through Blackrock. So I'm excited to see a little bit more druids come because of these additions. Synergizes well with Innervate. You can Innervate this card on turn 1, and it's going to be kind of like a slightly better Harvest Golem. If they play like a 3/2, right, you can just hit, and then he could hero power the 2/1 off. But here he'd have to spend a little bit more resources to take out the 2/2 that's left behind by the Druid of the Flame. It synergizes well with Druid of the Fang because it is a beast. Both versions are a beast, so it's gonna trigger that battle cry, make it a 7/7. It's good with any with most of the marks and the buffs. You can mark it up, make it a really tanky minion. You can Power of the Wild to make it a really tanky minion. You can Dark Whisper, make it a really tanky minion. And it works well with Savage Roar. If you're looking for a finish, you can try the risky mode of 5/2 and then Savage Roar for 7, or you can try the safe 2/5 and Savage Roar for 4. It's going to be a really nice card. I'm hoping to see a lot of it in Arena. Next we have Imp Gank Boss. This card, I think, it might change the way Warlocks draft. Just from having this common option in Arena, it might affect a lot of the cards, a lot of the power levels. Things like Power Overwhelming might be a little bit more useful, since the 1/1 imps are going to be there, just annoying, just consistently there. And the low end, I think this card is very much like an Unbound, and Unbound's a really good card. It has the potential to be a lot more than itself. Unbound with overloads can be really, really game changing. Imp Gang Boss, if it triggers, it summons. It's like getting a stat boost of 1/1. That's detached from the card itself. So if it hits once, which is very likely to happen, it's going to be like a Fel card. So this card already is really, really top tier. Just from the ability and the stats. And then if it hits twice, if it hits once and survives, and hits twice again, it's going to be like a Spiteful Smith, as it gets 2 1/1s as well as the creature itself. This card has also a lot of synergies. I mentioned Power Overwhelming already, but then it has synergies with a lot of demon cards. Spectral Pack, Demon Rat, Sense Demons, Demon Heart. Dread Inferno I thought was pretty cool, since Dread Infernos, it'll hit that, it'll take damage, you'll summon a Whelp, an Imp afterwards. Fel Cannon can hit that and create a Wimp. Hellfire creates a Wimp, and then Demon Fire buffs it up so that it can trade upwards or do some kind of funky combo depending on what is necessary. Next card we have here is Dragon's Breath. Deal 4 damage, cost 1 less for each minion that dies this turn. I really like this card because I think it's bad, and I don't think mages need more good commons in Arena. They already have enough, so I'm quite happy this card exists as a common, just making mage choices a little worse. So on the low end, this card is more like a Mortal Strike. It may cost 4. Just to do it, just to play the card, and it's not going to be as impressive as Fireball with the 6 damage. 4 damage, the mages already have a card on the low cost to a Flame Cannon, 2 mana to deal 4 damage to a random enemy. A lot of people just know to trade before they use the Flame Cannon, so it's not that big of a deal. The random effect is more like a controlled effect. So I don't think Dragon Breath's going to be useful too much. Shadow Bolt's the mid tier. If you trade, it's very common to be a Shadow Bolt to deal 4 to a minion, which isn't that bad. I think Shadow Bolt's a pretty good card, but I don't think it's going to be as consistent as some other picks. And then some of the synergies, it's the same as the Paladins one, where it costs less per minion. You just pick cards that summon more minions. And something switched is Flame Strike. You can now Flame Strike and then take out maybe 3 or 4 minions, and it will make the Dragon's Breath an easy follow-up to the Flame Strike. So that's something to watch out for. It's given them an easy way to deal with really big minions, but they already had ways with the Flame Cannon, the Frost Bolts, and the Arcane Missile. So it's just another option they can use that synergizes well with the Flame Strike. And next, and I believe finally, we have Twilight Wealth. Twilight Wealth being a dragon for priest, and if you're holding a dragon as well as you play this card, it buffs it up into a 2/3. So on the low end, this card is exactly like Murloc Raider. Some people like to call him Billy, I've heard. It's just its stats is a 2/1 and it costs 1 mana. Quite the same card. Sometimes the battle cry is not going to be effective. So in the mid end, it's like playing an abusive sergeant on turn 1. Its battle cry doesn't have that tangible effect, that consistent effect that is useful. But if you do get the battle cry off, if you are holding that dragon, it is a zombie chow. For priests, I think priests already have a lot of 1-drops, especially in arena, but it's something to look out for if you are realizing you have a more dragon heavy deck. You can maybe pick up a whelp. Maybe it shall trigger and you get a zombie chow. And we all know how good zombie chows are in arena. And if you don't know how good zombie chows are in arena, zombie chows are one of the best 1-drops. The body lets you start have an early lead in the game. So if you do see a zombie chow, at the moment it's quite favorable to pick one up. And then the cards it synergizes is not much. It synergizes with Blackrock Corruptor and Blackrock Tactician if you're holding a dragon, which is, Twilight Whelp happens to be. They do have a really nice effect, a really nice battle cry, so Twilight Whelp helps with that. And then Twilight Whelp also synergizes with dragons, it needing the dragon effect to trigger. So those are the class commons for Blackrock Mountain. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching my second video about card reviews. I've got the first part on the left and I've got an educated video on the right. Have a nice day, humans, and bada something, yeah.